Welcome to the Gamescape, everybody. My name is Jeric, and today we're back in Phoenix Point, and this episode is going to be my guide on soldier multiclassing. There's 7 different classes of soldier that you can have in this game, and 3 of them you start out with: the sniper, the assault, and the heavy. And then you can pick up 2 from the Disciples of Anu, the priest and the Berserker. From New Jericho, you can pick up the Technician, and from Sneedron, you can pick up the Infiltrator. And we're going to take a look at all of them and kind of go over their abilities a little bit and see how they all mesh together as multiclass. So in order to do that, I want to start out with just looking at each individual class. And this is going to take a few minutes, but I think it's important that you understand all of their abilities before we start talking about how they work together as dual class soldiers. So let's start with the sniper. If I had to classify the sniper's abilities, I would say that the sniper's abilities focus on efficient direct fire killing, or making direct fire killing more efficient. And so to take a look at that, we start out with sniper rifles and handguns as our weapon proficiencies. At level 2, we get extreme focus, which reduces the overwatch cost of any direct fire weapon by 1. Obviously, melee weapons can't overwatch, so it's got to be a weapon that can be overwatched. This also means that handguns and other weapons that require 1 AP to fire actually are free to overwatch. Quick aim, action point to the next shot with a proficient weapon is reduced by 1. And again, if you have a 1-point weapon, a 1 action point weapon like a handgun or a crossbow, for instance, this reduces that cost to 0, and you can keep firing that weapon as long as you continue to burn willpower points to activate this ability, which costs 3 will points to activate. At level 4, every soldier gains the ability to multi-class and choose a secondary class to train into, which is what we're here to talk about today. At level 5, the sniper gets the Master Marksman. So if there's no spotted enemies within 10 tiles, their accuracy is increased by 30%. At level 6, they get Weak Spot, which means disabling the body part also removes that body part's armor. That comes into play more on bigger Pandoran enemies or other heavily armored enemies than it does for the smaller, weaker ones. Generally speaking, it's the only way the sniper really has to get rid of armor at all. The sniper rifle and the handguns don't shred armor, so neither one of them is going to get rid of armor other than through this ability. The nice thing about this is it's passive. You don't have to pay any willpower points to activate this, so it just happens. So that's a good thing. And then marked for death. Mark an enemy target until the end of the turn. Each hit from an attack or individual round gets plus 10 damage. This effect does not stack, which means you cannot have 2 snipers mark the same target for death for both of them to, gain the plus 20. It doesn't work that way. It's only ever plus 10, even if you do it once. But it is every round that hits the enemy that's marked, even from other soldiers. So it can stack up pretty fast. Let's take a look at the assault. Assault's the next type of soldier that you have immediately starting the game. They start out with proficiency in assault rifles and shotguns. Dash, the ability to move half your movement range, limited to 2 uses per turn. This costs 1 action point and 3 willpower points to activate. But what it allows you to do is if you activate it twice, you use 2 willpower points or 2 action points to move your full movement distance, what you would have normally been able to move with 4 action points. And then after that, you still have 2 action points remaining, which you can use to fire your weapon, or you can move again and end up moving basically 1.5 times your normal distance. Or you can, use that for anything else that requires action points. So it's just a speed boost, but it's pretty nice to use that in a lot of cases. Their level 3 abilities: return fire, shoot back at an enemy when it attacks you, provided the soldier is using direct fire projectile weapon with proficiency and the enemy is within half perception range. So they have to be semi-close for this to go off, and at nighttime, your perception range is reduced as well. So at night, you're going to get even fewer opportunities to use this, but during the day, they can be a decent way away. Your base perception for your soldiers is 35. So within 17 tiles, you're going to shoot back at them if there's good visibility. So that's not too bad. Most fighting is happening within that range. So level 5, ready for action. This is a really good ability. Reloading and inventory actions do not cost any action points. This is very useful in a lot of cases. Obviously reloading, as it says. Also for getting grenades or med kits out of your inventory onto your ready bar. That doesn't cost a point. And also during missions where you are scavenging supplies and you have to open up those crates and pull the stuff out, that doesn't cost you an action point to do that either, which is nice in those missions because you're usually under time pressure because you've got an unlimited number of Pandoran enemies coming after you, or other enemies sometimes coming after you in those missions, and you just have to kind of grab what you can and get out as fast as you can. So it's a really great ability for that. Onslaught, an ally within 10 tiles recovers 2 action points, limited to 1 use per turn. This is basically transferring 2 of your action points to another one of your squad mates. Costs you the 2 action points and 4 willpower points. Your squad mate gets the 2 action points and can spend them however they want. Situationally, this is extremely useful, and it's a great way to, if your soldier isn't quite in range, doesn't have a very good shot, whatever, but somebody else does, you can just transfer the action points to the other soldier and let them take the shot or do whatever they need to do. And then Rapid Clearance is their level 7 ability. Recover 2 action points for each enemy killed until the end of the turn. This is each enemy this soldier kills. This is not the entire squad. So as long as you keep killing things, you can continue to keep firing your weapon or doing anything else. Costs 5 willpower to activate, and you can chain together, if you have things set up right, you can chain together quite a few different kills with this. So it's a good ability too. Okay. Moving on, we have the Heavy. And if I had to sum up the Heavy's abilities, I would say their abilities focus around crowd control and spreading damage across multiple enemies. And and not everyone does, but that's the gist of kind of what they do. So they start out proficient with heavy weapons, mounted weapons, and the jetpack. At level 2, they get melee proficiency and perform bash and melee attacks with 50% increased damage, which makes them very good melee fighters, actually. And when you get them in close and they have, their heavy cannon, or even better yet, if they have like a machine gun that weighs just a little bit more than this thing does, they can, once their strength is up a little bit, they can start bashing for a lot of damage. And it becomes quite good. And then melee attacks, of course, melee weapons do quite a bit of damage as well, and can, cause dazing, or can cause bleed damage or virus damage, or, depending on which melee weapon you're using. So your heavies actually make quite good melee attackers as well as, using their heavy weapons. Level 3 is Warcry. This is a definite crowd control ability. All enemies within 10 tiles have their action points reduced to 2 for the next turn. So basically what this is going to mean in most cases is the Pandoran or the enemy is going to have to choose between moving and firing. And a lot of times they'll just take the move action and then not shoot at you. That happens quite a bit. So Warcry is great crowd control ability, but you do have to kind of be in the middle of things for it to be useful, because it is a 10 tile radius from your current place that you're standing. Level 5, you get Boom Blast. Action point cost of grenades and other explosive weapons is reduced by 1, and their range is increased by 50% until the end of the turn. This, combined with a grenade launcher, can be really vicious. Grenade launchers, you'll be able to take 2 shots with the grenade launcher. They have good range, they shred armor, they do okay damage, and it's quite nice. Or later on, as you'll see, it allows you to also throw 4 grenades under certain circumstances. Normally a grenade is 2 action points to throw. As you can see here, 2 action points. This reduces it to 1. So if you're standing still and you have the strength to reach what you're wanting to throw at, you can stand there still and you can throw grenades until you run out of grenades, basically. Well, you can get 4 anyway. Now, the problem with that is you only have 3 ready slots on your bar. So unless you have some way to get a grenade loaded into your ready bar for free, such as the ready for action ability that the assault has, then you're going to be limited to that. But still, even throwing 3 grenades is still pretty good if you need, especially if you need to shred some armor up or just do damage to more than one guy at a time, more than one enemy at a time pretty useful for that. Level 6, Inspire. Killing an enemy grants allies 1 additional will point. Now, that is not you. That's not this soldier. It's only his allies. So everybody else gains the willpower point. The soldier, the heavy, only gets the willpower points that they get normally for killing the target. And then their last ability at level 7 is Rage Burst. Shoot 5 times, spread across an arc with a direct fire weapon. This one I have mixed feelings about. It really puts a lot of rounds down range. With a cannon, like the tier cannon that you see here, that's maybe not so great. It's not a very accurate weapon. And it is spread across a cone. It's not everything fired at one target. And so if you're in a situation where you've got several enemies standing pretty close to each other, or if you're in a hallway, for instance, and you have enemies down the hallway, might be pretty useful there. But generally speaking, and especially with the heavier weapons, you're going to burn up a lot of ammo and you're probably not going to hit a whole lot. You'll get a few hits probably, but you're going to take 15 shots and that's your full magazine in most of these cases, I believe. So it's ammo capacity is 12 here. So yeah, you're going to get only 4 shots with the tier cannon anyway. And you're going to burn up all your ammo. So it's kind of a mixed bag. In some cases, it's good, especially if you're very close to something large, like a Chiron, for instance, or a Cilia. Then most of your shots are going to hit, and it's a great way to get a whole bunch of damage out. It's 5 will points to activate it. And for 5 will points, you get to basically empty your magazine into the bad guy. So situationally, it's good. In a lot of cases, like I said, you're just wasting ammo in a lot of cases. So you have to be pretty careful about how and when you use it if you are concerned about things like that. All right, so that's the heavy. These are the first 3 classes. These are the ones you get as Phoenix Point soldiers. Moving on, the Disciples of Anu give you access to the Berserker class. The Berserker's abilities are, I would say, damage mitigation and remaining functional while hurt. So if we kind of take a look, they start out proficient with melee weapons and handguns. The problem with this is they're not the best melee fighters. The heavy is actually much better at melee than these guys are, and I'll get into that in just a second. But their second ability, level 2 ability, is Armor Break. This is a good ability. The next attack deals 30 additional shred damage. When you're looking at these guys and their abilities, I think it's important that you don't get tunnel vision. What I mean by that is you look at the Berserker, he's holding his hammer, and it's easy to kind of think to yourself, well, he gets to shred armor with his hammer. Well, it doesn't say that. It says the next attack. And that means the next attack, period. It doesn't matter what the weapon is. Deals 30 additional shred damage. So if he's firing a weapon, each shot from that weapon is going to do 30 shred. If he throws a grenade, and yes, it does work for grenades too, every body part that grenade hits is going to get 40 armor shredded because the grenade shreds 10 and then an additional 30 on top of that from this ability. So the Berserker is extremely, extremely good at shredding armor off of enemies, especially heavy armor. Now, they need a little bit of help. The grenades are awesome at it. But a handgun, not so much. It's a single shot weapon. You don't want to have to keep activating this a bunch of times. It's 3 willpower points to activate it each time you do it. It's better to have a weapon that fires multiple shots doing this kind of work. And we're going to get into that as we talk about the Berserker as it multi-classes. But just keep in mind, this ability is for every attack. It's not just for melee. Next ability at level 3, Close Quarters Evade. Attacks from enemies within 10 tiles deal 25% less damage. This is good for a lot of classes besides the Berserker. The idea behind the Berserker was supposed to be, at least, that they would get in close and be melee combat monsters. And they can do that. But like I said, the heavy is actually better at it. But this ability allows them to be in the middle of things and gives them a little bit of protection against that, because they're going to take less damage, and then that lessened damage is then applied to the armor. The Berserker's base armor is pretty bad. They have 14, 10, and 10 for armor. So the Berserker armor is pretty bad, but you don't have to have your Berserker in Berserker armor. You can put them in Odin armor. You can do whatever. So that's that. It's a great ability. really, and it is passive. It doesn't cost anything to activate it, so that makes it even better. Their 5th level ability is Bloodlust. Damage and speed are increased proportional to the hit points lost up to 50%. So as your Berserker takes more damage, he gets faster and he does more damage. And again, notice it doesn't specify what type of damage. So that means all damage. So if he's firing a weapon, if he's throwing a grenade, if he's hitting with his hammer, it doesn't matter. That damage bonus is going to apply to every shot from every gun or every attack that's made. So that's not too bad, except that it does require your guy to be taking damage to activate, which if you can avoid damage, it's better. Depending on taking damage to get better at something is questionable, I think, in most situations. And that's kind of one of the reasons why the Berserker isn't necessarily the best choice as a melee combatant, because he does require this damage to be taken before he starts hitting harder. Ignore pain. Disabled body parts remain functional, cannot panic or be mind controlled. This is actually really good ability. One of the things that will shut down a soldier quicker than just about anything else is getting an arm disabled. This allows that soldier, the Berserker, to continue functioning even with that arm disabled. Now, with the Berserker, as we can see as he's kitted out on like just a base scenario, he's got the hammer, which is one-handed, and he's got a grenade, which is one-handed. So the Berserker himself doesn't need 2 arms for the weapons that he's proficient with. They also have proficiency with handguns, but again, single-handed weapon. So you can lose an arm and still be functional. Now, Berserkers can lose legs and be slowed way down from that, or torso and head or whatever, and lose, lose willpower and so on for the different penalties for getting different body parts disabled. But again, as we start talking about multi-classing and getting the Berserker mixed with things that have 2-handed weapons, this ability really starts to shine. Because, like I said, the quickest way to get rid of an assault or a heavy and make them completely ineffective is just disable one of their arms. And this gets around that. And that's a great thing. Also, not being able to be panicked or mind controlled is huge. If you panic, you basically end up losing 2 turns. The first turn while you're panicked, and then the second turn while you're recovering. And so that's not a great thing either. If you can avoid being panicked, that's awesome. So great ability. And again, passive, doesn't cost anything to activate this. So then the last ability, this is a really great ability too, but you do have to be a little bit careful with it. So Adrenaline Rush, all abilities cost a maximum of 1 action point until the end of the turn. Again, all abilities, doesn't matter what it is. It's not limited to Berserker abilities or their weapons or anything like that. Everything the soldier can do will cost a maximum of 1 action point. The downside, next turn you will be dazed. Will point abilities cannot be used until the end of your turn. So that's all you're activating for willpower points unless you do it beforehand. So that's, let's say you had something else that you wanted to do. You would have to do it before you activated Adrenaline Rush. If you had a dash that you wanted to make, because this guy was, let's say he's multi-classed as an assault and a Berserker, and he has the dash ability. If you wanted to dash first, then you would have to dash and then activate this. Once you activate this, you can't spend any other willpower points. So you do have to be a little bit careful of that. And you do have to be careful because you are going to be dazed on the next turn unless you have something special that's mitigating that. There are like head mutations that avoid being able to be dazed. And there's probably some other stuff too. But generally speaking, you're going to be dazed. You're going to have 1 action point that next turn, and you're not going to really be able to do much. So you better make sure if you're going to use this, that you get the job done that you needed to get done in those willpower points or those action points that you have. So just be careful with it, but it can be super, super effective. And again, even more so when we start talking about multi-classing, and we'll get into that. The second class from Disciples of Anu is the Priest. The Priest is focused on enemy debilitation, I would say. And if there's a class that really can stand on its own very effectively, I would say the Priest is either most able to stand on its own or least able to really utilize the abilities of other classes. And the Priest is kind of really unique in a lot of ways. First of all, their proficiency with weapons is for viral weapons. Now, if you're not familiar with virus damage in this game, what it does is it stacks up on the enemy, and then it starts reducing the enemy's willpower every turn. And so when, let's say you do 40 virus damage to an enemy, they get that 40 virus, and then at the beginning of their next turn, sorry, let's say 4, it's not 40. They lose 4 willpower points, and the virus drops down to 3. And then they lose 3 the next turn, and it drops down to 2, and so on and so forth. So as that stacks up, it's going to drain their willpower. Now, eventually, when their willpower reaches 0, they're going to panic. And so the virus damage is, number one, a great way to deal with very tough mobs that are easier to drain their willpower and make them panic than it is to kill them. And then second of all, a lot of these other abilities are determined by the enemy's willpower point pool remaining. So let's start looking at that. First ability they have is Mind Control. Gain control of the enemy with willpower costs equal to the enemy's current willpower points. Costs 1 to 10 willpower per turn to maintain, depending on target type. So again, before you start using this on an enemy, you probably want to drain their willpower a bit so that it doesn't cost you as much and you can hold on to that control for longer. Next ability is Panic. Same idea. Cause a target to panic if its current will points are less than the priest's. So again, now it's just a direct contest. Do I have more willpower than you do or not? And draining those willpower points is great. Third ability, Mind Sense. All organic enemies within 15 tiles are automatically revealed. Just passive ability, pretty nice. Psychic Ward. Allies within 10 tiles are immune to panic and psychic damage attacks. This is group protection. Again, really great. If your allies can't panic, it's awesome. And then Mind Crush. Deal 100 damage to all enemy entities within 10 tiles. This one's good. It's expensive. It costs 6 willpower points and an action point, and 100 damage isn't going to kill much in this game. So you have to be a little bit careful that you're not getting yourself into the middle of a bunch of trouble and then you're not able to do anything but upset all of the enemies with this ability. So, but again, situationally pretty good to have. The next soldier class that's available comes from New Jericho. It's the Technician class. The Technician is sort of a squad support type class, and its abilities are really centered around that particular role. So they start out with proficiencies with point defense weapons, robotic arms, and turret deployment. Point defense weapon is this weapon here. You could kind of think of this as like a submachine gun, I suppose. It's got a damage of 30, burst of 4. Effective range is only 16, which isn't even as good as some of the handguns. But it only costs 1 action point to fire. And so you can put quite a few rounds out pretty quickly with it if you have the action points to spend on it. So it's a bit of a cross between an assault rifle and a handgun. Then the robotic arms are attached to the back of the armor. Of course, the robotic arms have a few different abilities. Remove Mind Fragger, Technician Repair, which restores hit points to mechanical devices like vehicles. And then Technician Heal, restore 120 to the general hit points and remove 50% paralysis from an allied unit using 1 charge. So this thing uses energy pack, and you can reload it and everything. But the abilities that he has is fast use at level 2. The action point cost of medkits, stim packs, and robotic arm abilities is reduced by 1. So this guy makes a really good field medic because he's got the ability to use the med packs for just a single action point. His arm has a healing property, and then he has another one we'll get to here in just a second. He can also deploy turrets and take control of a turret or a vehicle weapon and shoot at a target. So he can spend 2 action points and 2 willpower points. He could technically fire the missile launcher on your Scarab, for instance, or he could fire one of the turrets that he's deployed and so on. So direct control of those types of things. At level 5, he gets Field Medic. This is a really great ability. Restore 10 hit points, 10 armor to all body parts of the selected target. Disabled body parts are restored. This is one of just a couple of ways to get disabled body parts restored while still in combat. And so the Technician can do it. The Synedrian Aspida support vehicle can do it. And if the unit has regeneration, that can do it. And I think that's about it for restoring disabled body parts. So this is a super powerful ability, really nice to have, and perfect for like a field medic type to have. Remote deployment. The turrets can now be thrown instead of deployed in an adjacent tile for 1 action point. That's okay. And then electric reinforcement. This is a great ability to give yourself and allies within 20 tile radius a bonus of 20 armor for 1 turn. This effect does not stack. 20 tile radius is a big area. And that's going to cover most of your squad. You have to be really spread out for this to not get everybody. And so a bonus of 20 armor on top of the armor that they already have is a really, really nice thing. So good class and good abilities pretty much all around for just supporting your own squad. Guy makes a great medical technician in the field and has, you know, some other abilities too that kind of help out, putting extra firepower out in the form of turrets, etc. And our last class that we're going to talk about is from the Synedrian side. It's the Infiltrator. The Infiltrator focuses on stealth, scouting, and escape. Starts out proficiency with crossbows and spider drone deployments. Baseline stealth factor is 25% as long as the character isn't revealed. So they get a bonus to stealth basically until they're revealed, and then that bonus is no longer there until they're concealed again, which can happen in a few different ways. So as long as they're not detected, they're harder to detect. But once they are detected, then they're kind of been seen, and it's kind of much harder for them to get back into concealment, is what that kind of boils down to. Crossbows. I've mentioned this, I think it was in episode 2 of my playthrough, but this Psyche crossbow is the poison crossbow, and this is one of the most vicious weapons in the game. And the reason why is because it does this 40 poison damage with every hit. And that poison damage starts stacking up, and it's only a single action point to fire this weapon. So if you are up against a very tough Pandoran that has a lot of hit points, you can start stacking up a lot of poison damage on it in a pretty big hurry with these crossbows. And that poison damage, the more you stack on, the more it does over time. And it's just a really, really nice weapon to have to use against the big targets like the Cilia and the Chiron and even the Pandoran bases where you have to take out the big building like Pandoran. Really, really great for those kinds of things. And then spider drones. Spider drones are really nice as scouts. They're little tiny drones that kind of skitter around, and you can control them once they're deployed. And if you need to, you can run them up to something and they'll explode like a grenade. So they're pretty good for scouting, and it's another target on the map too for enemies to shoot at in a lot of cases. So they're pretty nice to have around. The actual abilities of this class: surprise attack, attacks from behind, gain shock value equal to 3 times the damage dealt. Now, that doesn't mean from in concealment. That just means from behind. So if you can get your Infiltrator behind the target and you shoot them anywhere in their back arc, basically, then you're going to do this shock damage. And if it's enough, it'll daze them. So that's pretty decent. Deploy decoy is a great ability. Deploy a holographic decoy at the chosen location. The decoy is treated as a real target by all enemies. So this is something that you can use to give the enemy a much juicier target to shoot at than your guy. You guy could be in cover, hiding, hunkered down. You can deploy this decoy out in the middle of an open space and make it a much nicer target for the enemy to shoot at. And then they're not shooting at you, which is the whole idea. So it's really, really good. At level 5, they get the ability to deploy 3 spider drones with 1 action. So instead of 1 little spider running around, they got 3. Vanish at level 6, move within 5 tiles and disappear from view for the next turn or until spotted. So this is one of the best ways to get concealment again once you've been discovered. Basically, you just move away and you're concealed again. And as long as they don't spot you again, you remain concealed. So that's a good thing. And once you're concealed and they can no longer see you, they're probably not going to come searching for you. I don't think their AI is quite that smart to just kind of wander over to where they last saw you. It might be, but it in a lot of cases, I don't think it'll do that. So, and then their level 7 ability is quite nice too. Damage dealt while not spotted is increased by 50%. Again, doesn't matter what type of damage, all damage dealt while they're not spotted is increased by 50%. One thing to note, this does not apply to spider drone damage because spider drones are independent units. They activate on their own. and they're basically just moving around on their own, and you're controlling them, but it's not it doesn't count as the soldier's damage when they explode. So it doesn't apply to spider drones, but a grenade, a crossbow bolt, weapon that they're firing, whatever it is, 50% extra as long as they're concealed. So those are the classes that we have to deal with. And so next, what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about how these classes mesh together and what are the good combinations, what are the not so great combinations, and how they help each other, etc. So starting with the sniper, and we're going to just kind of move through each one individually. Sniper and assault put together. You have the sniper that has the abilities focused on more efficient direct fire killing, and you have the assault who has abilities that are focused on efficient use of action points. And when you put these two together, they are extremely good. The first thing, if we look at the assault, dash gives the sniper mobility that the sniper didn't have before. Allows the sniper to get into better positions, or get in and out of trouble as needed. And so that's a great ability for basically anybody to have. Extra mobility is always nice, but it does the sniper a lot of good too. Return fire with the sniper rifle is really powerful as well. The snipers tend to have bonuses to their perception, so they can fire at things that are shooting at them from farther away. And the accuracy of the sniper rifle tends to have them hit more often. And when they do hit, it's a lot of damage in one shot, so it punches through armor pretty well. So really good ability that synergizes well with the sniper. Ready for action. Again, the ability to reload without spending action points is great. Onslaught, ally within 10 tile recovers 2 action points, limited to 1 use per turn. This is good for a sniper in that they're not always going to have line of sight on something to shoot at. And if they don't have line of sight, but they're reasonably close to the rest of the party, they can start transferring action points to somebody who does. So that's never a terrible thing. This works out especially well if you've got your heavy that's ready to get into the action, because you can transfer your heavy a couple of extra action points, and then they can do their jump and they land and they can still fire their weapon. And that's really a nice ability to be able to do that. So rapid clearance, each enemy killed until the end of the turn, you gain 2 action points. This is okay for a sniper. The sniper is definitely going to be able to kill things, but gaining 2 action points doesn't let you fire your sniper rifle again unless you're also going to activate quick aim again, which is, so you're looking at 5 willpower points for this, and then another 3 for quick aim. You're looking at 8 willpower points to take that extra shot. If you want to do that, you can. It's definitely something that you can do. And as a sniper, you're going to be focused on a lot of willpower anyway, because snipers are pretty heavily dependent on it. So maybe that's worth it, but it's questionably useful for the sniper. But again, you're not just limited to your sniper rifle at that point. You could pull out your assault rifle and take a free shot with your assault rifle too, if that's what you wanted to do. It just depends on how you're kitting out your soldiers and what roles you want them to play. But so it's a good ability. Situationally, it's, maybe it's going to help with the sniper rifle, maybe not. That's kind of up to you to decide. Kind of on the other side of that coin, if we look at the sniper's abilities as they relate to the assault soldier, you're now proficient with sniper rifles and handguns, as well as assault rifles and shotguns. So that just widens out your array of weapons that are available to you. Overwatch cost is reduced. That's for every weapon that you're proficient with. So your Overwatch for your assault rifle is down to 1 AP. Your Overwatch for your handgun is free, just like it is for the sniper. So that's awesome. Quick aim with an assault rifle. You can fire that assault rifle 4 times a turn if you want to burn the willpower points to do it. That's really good. Master Marksman, accuracy bonus with no spotted enemies within 10 tiles. This happens more than you would think with the assaults. You kind of tend to think of the assault as kind of being right up in the action, and that's not always the case. There's a lot of times where they're more than 10 tiles away from everything else. Then the assault rifle especially has enough accuracy to be farther away than that and still be useful. A shotgun, maybe less so. But even then, if you're 10 or 11 tiles away and you're using your shotgun, this bonus 30% accuracy with that shotgun is going to have you hitting a lot more shots anyway than if you didn't have it. So even then, it's useful as long as you're reasonably close to that 10 tile, limit. So really good ability. Weak spot, again, anytime you're pulling armor off of an enemy, that's not a bad thing. Now, the assault rifle, it will shred armor, but it doesn't do it quickly. Each shot will just shred 1 point of armor. You're going to shred some of the armor, but this gets rid of all of it. So that's not a bad thing to have. And it's a passive ability too, so it doesn't cost you anything to activate it. And then Marked for Death, again, adding extra 10 points of damage to every shot that hits. That's limited use for a sniper rifle. If that's all you're hitting with, it's not worth the 4 willpower to do that 10 extra damage, unless that's going to guarantee the kill, of course. But when you start firing multiple rounds, multiple bursts from your assault rifle, and each one of those that hits does an extra 10 damage, now you're stacking damage quick, right? And it becomes much more useful at that point. Even if you're by yourself, as a soldier and you're the only one that has line of sight, as a sniper assault versus just a sniper, you can dish out that extra damage and make this ability much more worth activating. So probably I would say that assault sniper is the best, or one of the best, if not the best combination of classes that there is. They just synergize so well with each other. Like I said, both of them are focused on efficiency, the sniper on direct fire killing efficiency, the assault on use of action points efficiency. And when you put those two things together, they're just really, really great. The heavy and the sniper also synergize pretty well together. Maybe not quite as well, but still really good. The heavy has less that helps the sniper than the sniper helps the heavy. But still, the combination is good. Number one, the ability for a sniper to use the heavy armor with the jetpack is an interesting idea. And I've talked about this in my 10 tips and tricks video a little bit. And if you've seen that, you've heard this already. But if you're willing to take the hit on your accuracy for having the heavy body armor on their torso, it's a -8% accuracy hit. If you're willing to do that, you get the jet jump ability, which means your sniper can jump to any tile within 20 squares. And what that's really useful for is getting good position to fire, and especially fire down at the enemy. If you can get above them and you can start shooting down over any cover they have, you got a much better chance of hitting them instead of their cover. And so positioning above and with good line of sight is really good, and it's easy to do with the jetpack in a lot of cases. It depends on the map, of course, but in a lot of cases there are buildings that you can get on top of, and you can fire down on your targets. So using that jetpack to reposition is good if you're willing to take that hit to the accuracy. Brawler doesn't do a lot of good necessarily for a sniper. Ideally, you don't want your sniper heavy to be necessarily right in the thick of things, unless you're focusing more on the heavy side, then maybe you do. And the sniper rifle itself isn't the sturdiest of weapons, and it doesn't have a lot of weight. So the bashing damage you're going to do with it isn't going to be a lot, even if you're pretty strong. So this ability is of limited use to a sniper, but it's okay. It's cheap to get it, and it doesn't cost anything it's a passive ability. So you would want to pick it up even if you didn't really plan to use it. It could be situationally useful. Warcry is enemies within 10 tiles are reduced to 2 action points for the next turn. Ideally, you don't want your sniper close to the enemy, but in practice, it happens, and it happens quite a bit. Some of those Pandorans are really fast. Sometimes you're in pretty tight quarters, especially if you're cave crawling through a Pandoran nest, for instance, and they can get right up on top of you. So Warcry is a nice crowd control ability. Again, like I was saying before, it kind of makes them pick between shooting and or attacking and moving. And so it's a great ability to have, even as a sniper. It's not bad. Boom Blast really is kind of limited for a sniper. The sniper doesn't do much with this that doesn't already happen with the heavy, except you could activate rapid aim with the grenade launcher, and instead of firing it twice, you can fire it 4 times. It's a lot of willpower points, but it's pretty cool. It's 5 to activate this, and then each shot you're gonna have to activate quick aim. That's another 12. So you're looking at 17 willpower points burnt to do it, but throwing 4 grenades out there might be exactly what you need to do. Rage Burst, again, for a sniper rifle, it's you're going to get your 5 shots with your sniper rifle. You don't have any control over where they go other than pointing the cone in the direction you want it to be. And so you're not targeting anything specific. And so while this is cheaper and you can get that 5th shot in, then trying to do the same thing with quick aim. With quick aim, you get to choose where you're shooting, and you're a lot more guaranteed to hit than you are just firing in an arc. So again, unless you're really close to something pretty big, I wouldn't necessarily want to do this over just using quick aim. As far as the kind of the other side of the coin, how these abilities help heavies, extreme focus again, reduced cost of Overwatch is good. Now your heavy is proficient with the handgun that he's probably carrying anyway, so that he has an attack that can be made for 1 action point. So now he's proficient with those handguns and he's more likely to hit. And then this, if he's got it, lets him Overwatch for free with that handgun. Quick aim, again, just clutch ability. Probably one of the best abilities in the game. Reducing that action point cost to fire your weapon is just really, really nice. Master Marksman. For the heavy, limited use again. Heavy weapons like machine guns and the cannons have such poor accuracy to begin with that you almost need to be within 10 tiles to actually have a chance of hitting, more than 1 shot out of the 3 or however many bursts you have. So this is another one of those situations where if you're right at the 10, 11, 12 tile range, it's probably going to help you. Much too much beyond that, you're probably going to just miss a bunch anyway, just like you would have without it. So it's not going to hurt you, and you definitely want it. It's a passive ability. It doesn't cost anything to activate, but the synergy with the heavy is limited, I would say. Weak spot, a little bit less so. Heavy cannons are really great at punching armor. And then if you disable that spot, that armor is just gone. And so both the heavy weapons and the sniper rifle are good at doing that kind of thing. The cannons are. The machine gun less so. The machine gun's less likely to disable a body part than the cannons are. So use your judgment on that one. Again, this is not an ability you have to activate. It's passive, so take it probably anyway. But again, pretty good for the heavy, not necessarily the best thing out of the whole package, but still useful. So pretty good. And then Marked for Death again. This one really good for a machine gun. If you got a heavy out there with a machine gun, you're firing 10 round bursts. Every single one of those that hits is going to do an extra 10 damage. That's going to be super nice for you. With a 3 round or single round cannon, less so. So again, depends on your loadout, whether it's going to be useful to activate this or not. And it's not just your soldier. If there's other soldiers that have line of sight to your target, they're going to get that extra 10 damage per hit too. So again, depends on how many soldiers you have. But even as a solo soldier, your sniper heavy combo, if they have that machine gun, is going to benefit from this quite a bit, probably. So especially since it costs so much to fire that weapon. But you can fire the machine gun twice if you combine it with a quick aim. That's 20 rounds going downfield. Each one of those rounds it hits is plus 10 damage. That's a potential for an extra 200 damage on your target. So really, really good combination there between those two things if you pair it up with a machine gun. So that's kind of the my thoughts on the heavy and the sniper combined together. Like I said, really good still. Not quite as good maybe as the assault sniper combo, but still a decent amount of synergy there. Sniper and Berserker. The Berserker is already proficient with handguns, so it doesn't gain anything there, but it gets the melee weapon proficiency and it gets the sniper rifle proficiency, depending on which one it doesn't already have. So that's okay. Having more weapon options is never terrible. The armor break ability, it's not the best because, again, you got a single shot weapon. And so you're only going to hit the armor once. You're only going to break the armor in one spot. Maybe that's enough, and maybe you need to do it. But the sniper rifle's already good at punching armor anyway. And so it's questionably useful for a sniper rifle. It does cost 3 willpower points to activate it. And so if you wanted to shred a bunch of armor, then you're probably going to be better just throwing a grenade or doing something else than trying to do it with your sniper rifle. But if you need to, you can do it. And the accuracy of the sniper rifle makes it more likely that you're going to get rid of the armor on the spot that you want to get rid of it on. So there is that side of the coin too. So it's okay. Close quarters evade. This one, again, it's not ideal that things are up close to your sniper, but if they are, this is really nice to have because your armor on your snipers tends to be lighter. So if you can reduce the amount of damage coming in, that's ideal. Bloodlust, again, this is not great. You don't want your sniper getting damaged to begin with, probably, which kind of, I don't know, makes the sniper and Berserker combination a little bit questionable overall. But if you are taking damage, you're going to benefit from it. At least you're going to get faster, and your weapons are going to start doing more damage as you take damage up to extra 50%. So it's there. It's passive. It's okay. It's not the best maybe because it does require you to be hurt, but it's not the if you're going to be hurt anyway, you might as well get the bonus, I suppose. Ignore pain, on the other hand, is really, really great for a sniper because, again, if you lose that arm, especially early in the mission, you're just done. You can't use your sniper rifle anymore. You have good accuracy with your handgun, and if you've got a good, like a Snedrian laser pistol, then it's got decent range even, but it doesn't make up for having the sniper rifle available. So being able to continue on, with a disabled arm, or not being panicked or mind controlled, all those are great things. This is a great ability. And then the adrenaline rush, this one is great. Unlike Rage Burst, which we talked about just a moment ago, Adrenaline Rush is going to let you fire 4 shots from that sniper rifle and put them exactly where you want to put them. I don't think that you can combine it with Quick Aim. If you could, it would only be the first shot, but I think what happens is you have to activate Quick Aim first, which reduces the cost of your shot by 1, and then this reduces it to 1. And so I think it's still going to cost 1. So I don't think you're going to get a free shot and be able to take a 5th shot by combining the two. I haven't tried it, but I think that's how that works. But either way, you're going to get 4 shots from your sniper rifle, for instance, with this ability, and they're going to be all able to be free aimed, and you're going to be able to put them right where you want them. This is really, really good. And your sniper ideally is back far enough that being dazed isn't going to matter on the next turn. Anyway, so I really like this ability for the snipers to have as well. So that in itself might be worth doubling up as a Berserker. I don't know. You decide on that one. But this is a decent set. It's maybe not exactly ideal for the sniper, but it's okay. If we look back the other direction, the Berserker, free Overwatch for his pistol. That's okay. Quick aim on the pistol and any other sniper rifle that he's carrying. That's okay. You can take free shots with that handgun as long as you want to keep burning the willpower to do it. A master marksman, not that useful for the handgun, probably. It'll help if you need to use it, but it's, again, not the best for the Berserker side. Weak spot, same idea. Disabling the body part loses all the armor, but with your pistol, are you going to be disabling the body spot? You will after a couple of shots for sure. So maybe that's okay. And then marked for death. You're not doing a lot of hits with your Berserker. You're either swinging your hammer, you're firing your handgun. Plus 10 damage to your handgun's okay. But is it worth activating 4 willpower points for? That's, again, going to depend on if anybody else has line of sight to the guy you're beating on. So these abilities don't help the Berserker nearly as much as the Berserker abilities help the sniper side. I'm not saying it's bad. I'd say it's a mediocre combination. Whereas Assault and Berserker pair up with the sniper much, much more efficiently, and better synergy between them. But, again, decide for yourself, and depending on your play style, if you like the Berserker, and especially if you like this idea of adrenaline rushing your sniper rifle into 4 shots, that might be worth doing it right there. That's that can put out some good damage. So sniper paired with the priest. Okay, it's all right. There's probably the least amount of synergy here, but I think that's pretty common with the priest across all of the different classes. The priest is, generally speaking, more into controlling the enemy and reducing their willpower than they are in actually killing them. The virus rifle does some damage, but a lot of its what would be damage is kind of focused more into the virus damage that it does as well. So the priest is trying to drain willpower and mind control and panic the enemy. They're not and then use that enemy to kill other enemies, generally speaking. They're not as interested necessarily in doing direct damage. So the sniper, with its ability to efficiently do direct damage, doesn't pair up as well with these abilities. But let's take a look at them. Your sniper becomes proficient with viral weapons. That's a thing. And it might be useful, especially against bigger boss type enemies. Mind control doesn't help the sniper. Neither does panic, unless the sniper's in big trouble and can make an enemy panic rather than attack. Mind sense, all organic enemies within 15 tiles are automatically revealed. That's not bad. Nothing's going to sneak up on your sniper necessarily. So that's okay ability. Psychic ward, your sniper a lot of times isn't close enough to your allies to help them with this. They're generally hanging back a little bit more, although not being panicked isn't bad. That's a good thing. And then Mind Crush, again, if you're within 10 tiles of your enemy and you're doing 100 points of damage, you better be able to do it more than once probably, or else you're just going to make them mad, and you're not going to kill any of them. So this ability is good if you can activate it more than once. It's only okay if you can only activate it once. The real problem with pairing Sniper and Priest is they both love to use willpower. All of the Priest's ability, well, the main abilities of the Priest depend on the Priest having a high willpower and having a lot of willpower points remaining, especially Mind Control and Panic, because you have to be higher than the enemy's willpower to do this. And so if you've got your Sniper using quick aim and whatnot to start taking a bunch of shots, by the time it comes time to mind control something, you're not going to have the willpower to do it as a Priest. So it's a really questionable combination of classes, I think. If we kind of look back at the Sniper, there's a few things here that might be helpful. The Overwatch on the Virus Rifle being reduced. The point of the Virus Rifle is to drain willpower, and it does do direct damage too. But the problem with that is the virus damage that you do on your Overwatch is not going to come into play until the Pandoran's next turn. So the Pandoran's acting now already. You're going to do your virus damage. Then you're going to act on your turn. And then it won't be until their turn again before that virus damage kicks in. So it's very, very delayed damage. Quick aim is great for everybody. More shots with the Virus Rifle is awesome. If you're looking for a Priest that's better at their job, then this is a decent combination. But again, you have to be really careful about burning your willpower as a Priest on Sniper abilities, because you need that willpower for your Priest abilities too. Master Marksman helps with the Virus Rifle. Weak Spot doesn't really come into play. And Mark for Death, again, doesn't really come into play. Unless it applies the virus damage. I don't know if the plus 10 damage applies to virus damage or not. I would have to check into that and see. But again, the Sniper abilities help the Priest out a bit. The Priest doesn't really help the Sniper out much. But if you're looking for an efficient Priest, this might be an okay combination for you. Again, I would rate this one as at best mediocre, if not kind of a high poor combination. It wouldn't definitely be my first choice to multi-class either the Priest or the Sniper probably, but it's a possibility, and there are a couple of things there that mesh a little bit. Sniper Technician. These guys can be okay together. Again, there's not a ton of synergies here. Their point defense weapons do benefit from quick aim the same way handguns do, in that you can, number one, take shots for free with that point defense weapon as long as you're willing to continue burning willpower to do it. And number two, the extreme focus ability reduces the Overwatch cost on your point defense weapon to 0. Fast use. This really kind of just depends on if you want your Sniper to also kind of be your healer. The Sniper's abilities kind of tend to have it back farther away from the rest of the group sometimes. So again, maybe not your best choice to use your Sniper as your medic that might have to rush up into combat. You don't want your Sniper up in the thick of things necessarily. And so again, not maybe the best combination. Being able to put down auto turrets as a Sniper, that might be okay, right? You might be able to kind of secure a good firing position and throw down those auto turrets to kind of help keep Pandorans away from your Sniper and anything that's kind of getting close might get a few more shots taken at it by those auto turrets. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad use of this, but again, the rest of these are kind of medic abilities. And again, with the robot arms, you have to use the Tech Ops 7 body armor if you want the robot arms. And you still have your accuracy bonus, but it's only 3%. It's much better than that with the sniper armor. So you're giving up a little bit of a little bit of accuracy if you want the use of the robot arms. As far as how the sniper helps out the tech, it's, again, you get the extreme focus for the point defense weapon. It's great. And so is quick aim for the point defense weapon if you want to burn. The problem with the point defense weapon is it's a really short range assault rifle. It doesn't do that much damage. It has a hard time punching armor. It's just, it's okay. It's okay, especially against unarmored targets. But once you start getting into things that are armored, it becomes less and less useful. Master Marksman, again, the range on the point defense weapon is so poor to begin with that this is almost not even worth mentioning. Weak spot, your technician's job is not to kill enemies necessarily. Not that it can't do that, but it's not really what it's there for. It's there to support your squad. So maybe this is okay, but usually you're not going to, especially again with your point defense weapon, you're probably not disabling things with your PDW. So, and then Mark for Death. Now this might be an okay ability for your technician because he can use his willpower points to put this mark on an enemy, and your soldiers that are actually doing the killing don't have to waste their willpower to do it. That's actually not bad. And so your technician, if he's not doing anything else, can spend those 4 willpower points, get that guy marked. And even then, then even his point defense weapon works a little bit better. So that's not terrible. That's a decent use there. So again, it's a mediocre at best synergy between the technician and the sniper. They can go together. There's a couple little things there that work out pretty good, but for the most part, they're kind of in 2 different areas of the battlefield most of the time, and you might not want to try and cross them. Try it out though. See what you think. Last one, Sniper Infiltrator. It's probably not the absolute best combination of classes, but it is a fun combination to play. You get a sniper rifle in your infiltrator's hand, and they're doing damage from halfway across the map with virtually no chance of being seen by the enemy. And it's really a lot of fun to have a sniper infiltrator. These abilities synergize okay. Surprise attack from behind. This one you're not going to pull off very often with a sniper unless you have another soldier up close that's kind of drawing the attention of the enemy and you happen to get them kind of facing sideways a little bit. But attacks from behind with a sniper rifle, usually you're not going to get that. So if you do get it though, 3 times the damage you're doing with your sniper rifle is a decent amount of shock damage, and you might daze your target. That's very possible. Deploy decoy is great for your sniper if they get in trouble and they are getting shot at. Because you can deploy a decoy out in the middle of the open while your sniper's in cover and make that decoy a much juicier target for the enemy, and they should shoot at that instead. So spider drones are okay, especially if you can deploy a few of them. What you can do is you can set them up as sort of a defensive perimeter for your sniper, and if any of the Pandorans start getting too close, number 1, you can see them. And number 2, if you have to, you can run your spider drone up to them and explode it. And so that's an okay defensive perimeter for a sniper. And with this level 5 ability, it only takes 1 shot to deploy them. So it's pretty quick to do it. Vanish is another great thing for a sniper. If you're in trouble, you just vanish and you move 5 tiles away, and then from there you can run or whatever you want to do. And as long as you're not spotted again, then you're kind of off scot-free. You can get it moved away and you can start shooting from downtown again and start taking out more bad guys with your sniper rifle. And then sneak attack. This one is beautiful for a sniper because you are going to be not spotted most of the time that you're firing your sniper rifle. And so you're getting that extra 50% damage. You're already doing 110, 120 damage with your sniper rifle. Another 50% on top of that is going to put you up near 200. And it's going to be really, really great. And especially if you're taking multiple shots with quick aim, you're going to be able to put a lot of damage on the enemy quickly with this extra 50%. So that's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. The sniper abilities as they relate to the infiltrator. Again, you get that sniper rifle and handgun proficiencies, which is good because the infiltrator just starts out with crossbows and the spider drones. Crossbows are okay, and especially the poison crossbow is pretty awesome actually. But they have some limits to them. Limited range, single shot. It's only 1 AP to activate it, but it's just a single shot like the sniper rifle, but it doesn't have nearly the punch. So being able to carry a sniper rifle, or especially a light sniper rifle, when those become available to you for your infiltrator, becomes really, really good. And so that's a great combination. Extreme focus, again, you're overwatching, cheaper. This, you're taking free shots. You're taking free shots with your poison crossbow as long as you keep pumping willpower into this thing. That is an amazing way to rack up a lot of poison damage on a target in a big hurry. I've used this in Pandoran colony missions, and it works great. So that's a beautiful ability for the infiltrator. Master marksman, again, better aiming, really good, better accuracy. Weak spot, less so. You can disable parts with a crossbow, but it's, again, the sniper rifle's better at it. And then mark for death. You're probably more interested in taking more shots as a sniper infiltrator than you are in marking something for death. Let somebody else do that. Let your sniper get that extra 50% damage for its hits instead, and just focus on putting more shots downrange. But if you need it, it's there. Again, if you're the only one with eyes on the target, this isn't going to help you that much. So you have to have other squad mates on with eyes on in order for this to be really useful. So that's our combinations with the sniper. Really, there aren't any bad combinations of sniper plus anything. The sniper's abilities generally help out everybody in one way or another. And that's not true of all classes. So the sniper is very, very versatile as a multi-class. And if you don't really know what else to do, it's a good choice. Let's take a look at heavy and assault. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep progressing through these and just cover the ones we haven't covered already back and forth. So as we get to each soldier, it'll get to be lesser and lesser lists as we move forward. So the heavy and the assault is another really great combination. And there are a couple of spots where it really shines. 2 spots in particular. If you want to focus on melee as a heavy assault, they're really good at that. And where that synergizes really well is your heavy now has dash for better movement and better ability to close in on the enemy. Rapid clearance too as a melee is big, because a weight of 5 weapon with bash and really good strength and brawler on the heavy side does a lot of damage. And in a lot of cases, especially as your strength starts getting really high, you can one-shot things with that. And so you get in a situation where you can run up to something, bash it and kill it, gain the 2 extra willpower points, dash to the next target, bash it, gain the next 2 willpower points, dash to the next target, and so on and so forth. And you can chain together some decent kills sometimes doing that, depending on how the enemy is positioned and whatnot. And so that becomes a very, very, very strong melee class. The other place where this combination really, really shines is as a grenadier. And it becomes scary how good this one is, because you get the ready for action ability, which means that you can pull grenades out of your body's inventory and put them on your ready bar for free. And then with the heavy's boom blast ability, you can start throwing grenades for one action point. So you can easily throw out 4 grenades with increased range and do a lot of damage that way. So that's really great. Your assault benefits from war cry just the same as your heavy does. They're often up in the thick of things. And inspire, killing, you're going to kill stuff with your assaults. That helps your allies out. Rage burst with your assault is maybe better even than it is with a machine gun. Maybe it's not, I don't know, but it's still really good with an assault rifle or a shotgun. If you're really up close to something big, if you're up close to something big and you rage burst with a shotgun, it's just going to be a pile of shredded meat when you're done. It's unless it's got a lot of armor that you haven't dealt with, it's gonna be a lot of damage. So this is a great set of abilities that mix well together. If we kind of look back the other direction, return fire, well, dash, we've already talked about dash. That's great. More mobility for your heavies is good. The downside of dash is that if you're wearing the heavy armor, you're taking a little bit of a hit to your speed, a couple of points. So that makes dash a little less effective, but still pretty good. Return fire with a heavy weapon is mediocre at best because the accuracy is so poor. Unless they're right up close to you, you're probably not going to hit them with the return fire, and you're just going to end up wasting some ammunition. So there's ways around that. Carry an assault rifle with your heavy and just end the turn with your assault rifle readied instead of the cannon. In a lot of cases, that'll let you return fire with the assault rifle, which is better for that. Again, ready for action, really great. No reload costs, no cost to put new grenades on your ready bar, really good. Onslaught. Heavies are going to sometimes be in a position to use onslaught and give somebody else a couple of extra action points, but more often than not, they're going to be receiving them. And if you can get extra action points onto your heavy rather, your heavy can jet jump and then still attack, and that's pretty good thing, especially if you're bashing, because then you got a couple. You can jump next to an enemy and you can bash them 3 times if you get the 2 extra willpower, 2 extra action points. So that's a nice ability to be on the receiving end of. Less often is the heavy and assault going to be giving that ability out, I think. So it's situational, but it's not going to be as useful maybe as some other combinations. And then rapid clearance, recover 2 action points for each enemy killed. We kind of already talked about this from a melee sense, but even from a direct firepower type of attack, it might be okay. Now, again, your problem is you're getting 2 action points back here, same as the sniper. It costs 3 points to fire your heavy weapon. Unless you're doing Grenadier with a grenade launcher, in which case it's only 2 to fire the grenade launcher again. So that might be something that you could take advantage of. If you have a group of enemies that you know you can kill with a couple of grenades, you activate this first and you get a couple extra action points for each enemy that you kill. And that's a couple more grenades maybe that you can fire. And with your, ready for action ability, you can reload your grenade launcher for free and keep on firing if you need to. So there's some synergies there, especially for both melee and grenade, being a grenadier type character. For the cannons, it's a little less so, but it's still pretty good. And the other direct fire heavy weapons, it's good. It's not maybe great, but I would say that this combination is probably still a very useful combination, and especially for those 2 specific roles. So assault, as it pairs with Berserker, is going to be decent. Again, armor break doesn't specify the damage type. So your assault rifle, if you're firing 6 rounds, each one of those rounds is going to do 31 shred damage because they do 1 on their own and then plus 30 from the armor break. That's a lot of armor shredded. And with the assault rifle being not quite as accurate as it is, you have a decent chance of spreading that across different body parts. And so you might end up shredding off armor off multiple body parts by doing that. So that's a great ability for an assault to be able to utilize. Again, close quarters evade is great. Your assault troopers end up in the thick of things fairly often, and taking less damage incoming is great. Bloodlust, again, if you are taking damage, your assault rifle shots are now going to start doing extra damage, and your guy's going to be able to run away faster if he needs to. That's a great ability too. These are good synergies. Ignore pain. Again, your arm's disabled. Who cares? Keep shooting that assault rifle. Can't panic. Can't be mind controlled. All's good. Adrenaline rush. This is another one of those situations. You activate this, you're firing that assault rifle 4 times. Here's the problem with it versus the sniper is you're going to put a lot of damage out. But if you don't get the job done, your soldier's in big trouble, and because he's not doing anything on the next turn, probably, unless you have the mutated head that stops you from being dazed, which is pretty common to have with a Berserker anyway, because that makes this ability like super overpowered. So having that armored head that you can't be dazed with, in combination with this is great. And if you have that with an assault rifle, you're just gunning things down left and right. I mean, it's not even funny because you're going to kill stuff and you're going to get willpower points back for doing it. So you're going to be able to keep activating this ability over and over again, probably each turn. So it gets really powerful, and it's kind of a gross overpowered combination in that respect. So you start combining that too with getting extra damage, from being hurt, and it gets pretty wild. So, and if we kind of flip back again, look at the assault, as it helps the Berserker. More movement is great for the Berserker. Return fire for the Berserker is you have to have a direct fire weapon equipped. So that depends on how you're running your Berserker. Maybe you've got an assault rifle on him, maybe you don't. Maybe you're focusing a little more on melee. I would argue that if that's what you're doing, maybe the assault and Berserker combination isn't exactly what you want. But either way, situationally, this is good. Ready for action. Let's talk about grenades one more time for a second, because the Berserker, again, its armor break ability applies to grenades too. And so every location that grenade hits gets 30 points of armor shredded. And that is just insane amounts of armor shredding. If you have to deal with something big with a lot of armor, 1 or 2 grenades from a Berserker combo with this ability active is going to put it down to no armor anywhere pretty quickly. And then it's going to be ripe for the killing. And so that just gets really gross. And when you combine that with the ready for action, where you can put more grenades on your bar if you need to quickly, it's really good. And we're going to look at heavy and Berserker in a few minutes, and it's going to be even better than that. But even this is a great combination for that. Onslaught, again, I don't know if your Berserker type and your assault type are going to be the ones giving out necessarily the action points to others. In some situations they might, and this is an okay ability to have. So it's still probably worth taking just for the flexibility of being able to do it if you have to. Rapid clearance, and again, if you're killing enemies, you're getting more action points. This is good for Berserker too. So perfect. This is a decent combination too. I do like the Assault Berserker combo. Assault Priest is, again, a little bit more questionable. The Assault gives the Priest class some conventional killing ability to combine with their control and willpower draining abilities. And that's a good thing. It gives a lot of flexibility to your Priest that they don't normally have. They get the proficiency in the assault rifle and the shotgun, which is, just straight up killing power that they don't necessarily have with their virus rifles. Mind Sense is really good at dealing with Tritons that have Pain Chameleon. Those things can be super annoying, and you shoot it once and it hides and you can't find it, and you have to wait for it to come back and shoot at you again a lot of times. With that, you can detect it if it's within 15 tiles. Now, you may not have eyes on it exactly. It might just be like a red ping on your screen, but that's even good enough because you can free aim. And if you have line of sight to where the ping is, you can just fire kind of near the ground at the ping and hit the Triton. So it's not that bad, even if you can't actually see it, to just target it based off the red ping on the map. Psychic Ward and Mind Crush. Assault soldiers tend to end up in the thick of things, like I said. And so you're going to kind of be in position where those two abilities are the best. No panic for your soldier. Again, really good. Not being able to panic, not being able to be mind controlled. The assaults kind of tend to cluster together a lot of times too. So everyone's covered by this one ability. That's really great. And then Mind Crush, again, if you can activate this a couple of times and really weaken your enemies, that's better. If you can only activate it once, it's okay. Kind of flipping it back the other way. Look at the soldier, the assault. Again, dash for your priest is good. Although the priest is not as limited by range as a lot of the other classes are. But there is a limit to how far away something can be and still be mind controlled. So there's that. You might have to move a little closer to mind control something. Return fire with a virus rifle is, again, we kind of talked about that a little bit with the poison. But when we talked about the priest first time around, I guess it was with the virus rifle. Return fire is okay, but that virus damage is going to be pretty delayed. Ready for action is great for everybody. Onslaught. Your priest might be in a little bit more of a position to be giving out willpower points to its friends. And the reason why is because that virus damage is delayed. And so you might be in a situation where you can fire your virus rifle at something and get some virus damage on it. And then you're kind of waiting for it to actually take effect and reduce the target's willpower. And so you've got a couple of extra action points left that you don't necessarily need to fire at it again. And you might be able to hand those off to somebody else that can do actually some more damage or whatever. So the priest is a better candidate, I think, for having being able to use onslaught efficiently than a lot of the other classes are. So that's really a decent synergy there, I think. And then rapid clearance, your priest isn't really killing many things. This is really of limited use for the priest. because a lot of their killing is going to be done by mind-controlled enemies, and that doesn't count towards this. So overall, I would say the Assault is probably the best pairing with the Priest of all the different classes. But even then, the synergies are mediocre. The Priest is just kind of such a different type of soldier that it doesn't necessarily mesh up well with everybody else. But given your Priest the Assault soldier's abilities and actual ability to do real damage as opposed to viral damage, is not a bad thing, and can make your Priest that you already have a lot more more effective on the battlefield, I would say, in different roles other than just mind control type crowd control stuff. So that's not too bad. Assault and Technician. If you want a combat medic, this is your combination right here. I mean, this guy's already a good combat medic to begin with, but what you're adding in by pairing this up with a soldier class is dash. And so he gets the speed boost and the ability to move farther, which lets him get to and aid a hurt soldier much more efficiently. If you got a guy that's kind of out a little bit farther ahead and you need to get to him, if you don't have that dash ability, you might not be able to heal him by the time you get to him. So combining dash along with the single action point heals, probably going to save that soldier in a lot more cases than if you didn't have dash. Return fire with this guy is kind of meh. The PDWs don't do that much damage, so it's better than nothing. You probably want to take it, but I wouldn't count on it for very much necessarily. Ready for action is good for prepping med kits on your ready bar. If you're using a bunch of them, you don't have to pay that inventory action AP to do it. So that kind of helps your technician in sort of a medical role. Although there is also medical ability on the robot arms too, so that's another possibility. You've got options for healing with this guy. You've got actual med kits, you've got the arms, and you've got this field medic ability, so you have definite options. The field medic deploying turrets, combining that with assault, puts more firepower out on the field, and it also puts more targets out on the field. Putting more targets on the field lessens the chances that your soldiers are going to be fired at. And any damage that isn't going to your soldiers is really good damage. The turrets are disposable. Let them shoot the turrets. So, and it's just more firepower you're adding to the mix anyway. So the turrets are pretty nice. The ability to control remote vehicle turrets, in certain edge situations, it might be useful to be able to fire another volley from your Manticore or your Scarab, for instance. And put another set of missiles out there. But the problem with the vehicles is they have very limited ammo to begin with. And so you don't want to be doing that too much probably. And you really probably don't want to be wasting your own action points to do it when the vehicle itself can do it in a lot of cases instead. So it would have to be kind of an edge case where you'd have to do that, but the option is there if you had to. That's true of any technician. It's not just limited to the assault technician. So, field medic, again, really good if you can get your guy up there closer. The ability to restore these body parts, I think I mentioned this already, but there's almost nothing in the game that does that. And that's just such a clutch ability, especially if you lose an arm early on. You don't want your soldier out of the fight for the rest of the battle. This gets him back in the fight. Really, really good. Being able to throw turrets out, decent. Electric reinforcement, super good ability for your assault trooper. It really is, because again, your assaults end up in the middle of things. It just happens, especially in tunnel crawls. They end up in the middle of the fight, and this ability to just add extra armor to everybody around them is really, really good. Now, as a combat medic, you're hopefully going to be a little bit further back, but it's a decent range, right? It's 20 armor, 20 tile radius. That's a big area that you're affecting. So really, really great ability, protects your entire squad. And if you happen to end up in the middle of things, it protects you really well too. So kind of flipping back over to the assault, looking at his abilities. We already talked about dash, getting up in the face of or getting up to whoever you need to help. Really good. Return fire, limited use, ready for action. Really good for anybody. Onslaught. This one is the technician assault is probably got the most useful use of onslaught that I can think of. And that is, if you've got a soldier that's in trouble and they need medical attention, you can transfer 2 AP to that soldier and let them move out of the bad situation back toward you, and then you heal them, as opposed to using your action points to move to them into the hot situation to heal them. This is a really, really great tool for the assault technician to extract a hurt soldier from a bad situation. Now, if the soldier in question has a disabled leg, that's not going to work. Obviously, it's not going to work. But if they're just hurt and they are on, their hit points are low and they're about ready to be killed, you can get them out of there, let them get to a better spot, and then you can heal them as they come to you. And that is a really, really good use of this skill, I think. Rapid clearance, that's not in the purview of a assault technician necessarily. They're not really focused on killing things as much as they are on helping the squad. If you're using a technician for killing, I don't know if you're really getting the best use out of its abilities. So it's what it is. And then we have the Assault Infiltrator, which is another really fun combination. I just like the Infiltrator all around. I love Infiltrators. But the Assault Infiltrator, you have the option now to have an assault rifle or a shotgun on your Infiltrator. The crossbows are good. They're not as good as an assault rifle. And so it gives you more flexibility, more options. Carrying both a crossbow and an assault rifle isn't that big of a deal. You have plenty of room for it. Neither one of them weighs that much. It's pretty good. Dash for an Infiltrator gets them into the action. Their crossbows, if you're using it, has okay range, but closer is better, especially if you're targeting specific points. Surprise attack for an assault is much more likely to go off than it is for a sniper Infiltrator. And that's because your assault's going to be closer, is going to have a better chance of being able to move to angle into the rear arc of an enemy. And at that point, you're good to go. And again, for the surprise attack, you don't have to be concealed. You just have to be behind them. And so it doesn't matter. Deploy decoy is really, really great for an assault trooper too. If you're in the middle of things, getting that decoy out there to be a better target than your soldier is, will save your soldier's life. Spider drones, really good. Just in general. Vanish is decent when it's time to get your soldier out of trouble. As an assault, you're going to probably get into trouble, and you're not going to have the heaviest armor, especially if you're wearing the stealth armor, because it's not that great. 12, 16, and 12, 16, and 16 armor, which is not even as good as your Odin armor. So it's pretty light stuff. You're going to need to get out of trouble at some point, and Vanish is going to let you do that. And then sneak attack again. You can do sneak attacks even with a crossbow if you've got the right skills and you're armored up in the stealth armor, and especially if you can get the thief ability as well. If you have a soldier that has the thief ability, very, very strongly consider making them an infiltrator or something, because that extra plus 25% makes them almost undetectable even at really close range. It's a really great combination. Unfortunately, it's random what abilities you get, but if you happen to see a soldier that has thief, consider making them an infiltrator plus whatever they already are. It's probably going to be worth it for you. All right, so that's all of the different combinations with the assault. Let's go look at the heavy. I know this is taking a while, but there's just a lot of combinations here, guys, so bear with me. Heavy plus Berserker. If you thought the assault Berserker was good at grenade damage, let me introduce you to the heavy Berserker. Because now you've got the grenade launcher and you've got Boom Blast. Couple that with Armor Break, and it's just insane how much armor you can shred. You're going to get 2 shots off with your grenade launcher. You can have both of them shredding 40 damage each. And it's just, there's going to be no armor left where those grenades hit. It's just going to be the end of it. And so that's a really, really great way of dealing with heavy armor. The Berserker plus heavy also works really well as a melee class, arguably better than just the Berserker. Well, definitely better than just the Berserker on its own. because now you've got the class that is really good at melee combined with the class that's decent at mitigating close range damage, and they work together. You get the armor break, which isn't that great, I guess, for a melee because you can't control where it hits, but it's still there. You have the close quarters evade, so you're wearing your armor, plus you're taking less damage overall from things within 10, and you're right up in their faces anyway as a melee combatant, so that's good. As you're getting hurt, you're doing more damage and you're getting faster, so when it does come time to disengage, you can do it more easily. Ignore pain. Again, you can't panic, can't be mind controlled. If you get a disabled arm or whatever, it doesn't matter. And then Adrenaline Rush. Again, Adrenaline Rush is just a really great ability, as long as you are prepared to deal with the daze on the next turn. And so this is a really good combination too. And if you're looking for melee, this is probably your best bet. Heavy plus Berserker is probably your best bet for melee, because they have abilities that mesh together really well for it. From the Berserker side, or from the Berserker side, the heavy abilities, Brawler helps it obviously in the melee. Warcry is really great. If you get a little overwhelmed, you're getting a little bit too many people in close, you can just do a Warcry, and you can again make them kind of choose between moving or attacking. If they're already right next to you, maybe it's not as good, but if you can take a step away from everybody and then Warcry, that'll help you out quite a bit. Boom Blast, we already talked about Boom Blast. It's just incredibly good. Inspire, killing enemies grants allies 1 additional will point. You're going to be killing stuff, especially as a melee. This is a good ability to take. Works great. Take it, use it, love it. Rage Burst, it doesn't help the Berserker. Berserker doesn't have any ranged combat abilities to speak of. It's not any better for the combination, Berserker heavy as it is for just the heavy himself. So that's one you're going to have anyway, but it doesn't really synergize with the Berserker class so much. So good combo though. And especially if you want melee or if you need to shred heavy armor, both of those situations, this is your best bet. Get a grenade launcher, get the combination going here, get armor break, and there's going to be no more armor on the enemy. It's just going to be gone. Heavy Priest. They don't help each other too much, but there are a couple of things. Jet Jump and Mind Crush is an interesting combination, but again, you're only doing one Mind Crush unless you can get action points from somebody else. But if you can get a couple of extra action points from like your technician, for instance, then you do your Jet Jump and then you have 3 Mind Crushes, then you're going to be killing some stuff. That's going to be effective. Now that's expensive. You're going to be burning up 18, 20 willpower points to do it. And again, that's going to leave you nothing for your mind control or your panic abilities. But if you're killing everything in a 10 tile radius, maybe you don't need that. So that's a combination that you can look at and use. It could work. It may work. It may not work. It'll just depend, I guess. Jet Jump can also be useful for getting into range to mind control something. Like I said, there is a maximum range at which you can mind control things. So Jet Jump can get you closer, and mind control is just one action point to activate. So you're giving up two willpower points to do the jump, but you should hopefully be okay even then. Depends on what you're trying to get at, I guess. Some of the Pandorans have a lot of willpower that you need to start chewing down, but that's okay. Rage Burst with a virus rifle against a large boss type can drain their willpower really, really fast. And that's kind of what you want against those guys. There are a lot of boss types that you can get them to panic long before you can kill them with virus weapons. Overall, it's got a couple of interesting ideas, but they really don't help each other all that much, And again, the priest is very willpower centric. It needs a lot of willpower to use a lot of its abilities. And they just don't synergize that well with the heavy. If we look at the heavy's abilities, Brawler, the priest isn't going to be doing melee, probably. You're not focusing on strength, and you're not hopefully getting that close to anything. Warcry, again, it's good in a bad spot, but you're not necessarily focused on that kind of crowd control. I mean, if that's what you want to do, if you want to really be crowd control, then this is actually something that you can look at, but you do need to be in close for this one. It might be a better alternative in some cases, though, to Mind Crush. So I don't know. This one actually might be okay. This is actually an okay synergy, I suppose, if you're going to be in close. Boom Blast, you're not throwing grenades with your priest, generally speaking. You're generally not killing things with your priest. If you are, it's probably with a mind-controlled enemy, which doesn't count as a kill for your priest. So you don't get the inspire. It doesn't. You're better off having other people inspire and you getting the willpower back, I guess, than you trying to focus on getting other people willpower. And then Rage Burst again. Rage Burst is great if you're up against something big and you need to put a lot of virus damage on it. That's really good. That's really good for that, but you have to be close to it to do that, or you're going to miss a bunch. So, it's, like I said, there's a couple of interesting ideas there for synergies, but overall they don't really mix that well together. It's just two still very separate classes mixed into one soldier. It would be okay, but it wouldn't be. You're just not getting the synergies. That's all. Heavy Technician. Problem with this is you have to make a choice because the robot arms cannot be put on the Golem B torso armor. So you have to make a choice. You're either going to have the arms and their abilities, or you're going to have the jet jump ability off the Golem armor. You can't have both. And so you're starting out already with a choice that isn't a great choice to make necessarily. The gaining the point defense weapon proficiency does give your heavy a decent option for a 1 action point attack, which is useful after like a jet jump, for instance, or after firing their heavy weapon for 3 action points. If they don't have to move, they can follow up with a shot from the point defense weapon. That's not terrible. It's a new option that you didn't have before for your heavy, and it might arguably be better than a handgun, right? Because you could potentially do more damage if you're not up against heavy armor. Electric reinforcement, though, for your heavy, it really shines because your heavy's already in really tough armor anyway. You know, the Golem B armor is 34, I think, armor points. You add another 20 on top of that, you're looking at 54 armor. Most of the attacks are going to bounce off of that and do a little shredding, but that's it. Sniper rifles will still get through it, and melee attacks will still get through it in a lot of cases, but the reduction in the damage is going to keep your guy healthy a lot longer. And so that ability on your heavy is really, really clutch. And it's not just on your heavy either. Obviously it affects everybody in a 20 tile radius around your heavy too. But if your heavy's in the middle of things and that goes up there, it's a lot of extra protection that you're not going to be sorry that you have. So, and then Warcry, from the technician's standpoint, Warcry gives your probable medic more crowd control ability to help out a soldier that is stuck and needs to have some help or else they're going to die, right? So you can get in, you can heal them. Even if you heal the soldier, they're still in a bad spot. And so now so is your technician. So if you can get in and you can heal and then somehow get enough action points again to also Warcry, that's going to help out a lot and reduce the enemy's ability to do more harm to you after you've already healed this soldier that's in trouble. So it's an okay combination. I do actually like it quite a bit, but it's not the best synergy that you can get, but it's still pretty fun, and there's some interesting ideas there. But you do have to make this choice whether you want the arms or whether you want the jump jets. So it just depends on what you're doing, what your play style is, how exactly you're using your technician heavy. It's like if you're looking for a medic, that jet jump might be able to get you in to rescue your soldier where you couldn't normally just run up to him and heal him. So it's a possibility. It just depends. So think about it, see what you think, and use it if you like it. If you don't. It's easy enough. And then the heavy infiltrator. This one's a little bit interesting. Surprise attack. Your cannons, let me specify, your cannons as heavy weapons are already doing shock damage. And so increasing that shock damage by being behind them is pretty nice if you can get behind the enemy. Now that's a big if, because your heavy is not necessarily going to be that fast. If you have a hammer, especially the one, as a melee weapon, you have the hammer that also does daze damage, and you can get behind them and you can make that attack. That's a lot of daze damage. You're probably going to get the job done with it. A lot of shock damage, rather. And you're probably going to get them dazed. So that's okay. Deploy decoy, again, is really great if you're in the thick of things and you need to get another target on the field. That's a better option for the enemy to shoot at. That's often the case with your heavy. So that's a really good use. And then vanish, again, really great if you need to get your heavy out of there. Sneak attack. Sneak attack with the extra damage is a lot less likely with your heavy because you do need to be in close with your heavy weapons, generally speaking. Exception to that being the grenade launcher again. If you're firing grenades from your grenade launcher, you're probably not going to be seen at that point, and then that extra damage should apply to your grenades. And that'll be good. But the grenades, they do okay damage. They do 80 damage base and then some shredding. And so you're doing 120 damage with shredding, and you probably can get 2 shots off if you activate Rage Boom Blast, rather. So pretty good, really. You're doing a decent amount of damage there. And probably you're going to at least disable limbs if you don't kill outright. So that's a decent option too. So I do like the heavy infiltrator. I like all the infiltrators, I'm not going to lie. But heavy infiltrator's got some interesting ideas behind it too. All right, so that's it for the heavy. Let's look at the Berserker. The Berserker combined with the Priest. Again, there just aren't many synergies here. And you would think with these guys being from the same faction that there might be more synergies, but there just kind of aren't. Overall, the Berserker's abilities mitigate damage, and they do help a soldier be in the thick of things. The Priest doesn't want to be in the thick of things most of the time. They have the one ability, Mind Crush, that wants to be there, but really that's it. And so the Priest does benefit from the Berserker's abilities like everybody else does as far as damage mitigation and the ability to keep going after being hurt. You know, Bloodlust bonus damage should apply to the viral damage from the virus rifle. Armor break is still good even on a virus rifle. And so those shots will still break armor, so that's okay. Adrenaline Rush allows the Priest to fire this virus rifle 4 times. That might be really good, right? Because if you need to get a lot of virus damage on something, that's a way to do it. It's good. I don't know. I like it. You do still, again, have to deal with the days afterward, but your Priest might not be that close, and it might not be that big of a deal. Psychic Ward's good for everybody. And again, Mind Crush isn't bad for Berserker because your Berserker is going to kind of be in the middle of things anyway. And the Berserkers are fairly reasonably willpower efficient. They don't have a lot of abilities that take willpower. They have Armor Break that does. But besides that and Adrenaline Rush, I mean, that's really it. All the rest of their abilities are passive. So if anybody's going to be able to activate that Mind Crush a couple of times, it's probably going to be your Berserker. And so that's a decent combination, and you can probably put out a decent amount of damage in a pretty wide area by doing it that way. So that's an okay synergy that these two have. But I think that's probably the best of it. The combination of Priest and Berserker, you have one that needs the willpower and one that doesn't need it as much. So that is okay together. And then you got your Berserker Technician, which sounds a little bit funny, but they are decent for somebody who wants to be in melee anyway. So what you're looking at here, one action point to apply a med kit as a Berserker is a good thing. You're going to take damage. And while you want maybe a little bit of damage to get Bloodlust going and get your damage up a little bit, you don't want to be skating on the edge of death necessarily, which I guess is kind of how Berserkers live. But, you know, you don't want to be in a position where at the end of the turn, you're down to, 20% of your health, because that's not helping you out anyway, any more than 50% of your health would be because of the cap on Bloodlust. You want to be able to heal yourself at some point. And so being able to do that for one action point, not a bad thing. Field Medic and Ignore Pain do sort of the same thing as Disabled Limbs go. So you're not gaining a lot there, except with the Field Medic's ability, you're also restoring armor and health. So it's not helping you to use that ability on yourself necessarily, because your armor as a Berserker is kind of poor anyway. But as far as helping other people's, it's still good. But those abilities do kind of do the same thing just a little bit as far as your guy is concerned. I guess with Ignore Pain, you don't have to do anything to ignore the disabled limb. So that's a bonus, I guess. So Electric Reinforcement, though, gives the Berserker Technician that extra armor when they are in close, and again, helps everybody else around them. So that's a really good ability for your melee types to have. Works with the heavy too. Obviously, we've already talked about that. Armor Break isn't terrible for the point defense weapons. If we look at the Berserker's abilities, it's okay. But you're getting four rounds with the point defense weapon. Its accuracy is garbage, so you're going to spread those shots around a bit. The problem is some of them probably going to miss, and that's less armor breaking that you're going to be doing for spending the willpower points. So it's okay. It's not great, I don't think. Close quarters evade, again, really great for anybody who's in the thick of things. And if you're doing sort of the melee medic, and especially if you pair this with electric reinforcement, you're going to be in really nice shape, even if you're surrounded. Well, decent shape, I guess. I don't know if I'd say really nice shape, but you're going to have some protection, even if you're surrounded by Pandorans or other enemies. Those two just combine together really well. And the unfortunate thing is the technician often does need to be kind of in the middle of things to save another soldier. So it's just how it is. The technician's armor is heavier than the berserker's armor. You're probably going to end up wearing that. And so that's another thing too. It's got 25 armor on all positions versus the berserker's that's 14 on the body and 10 on the head and the legs, which is just sad and pathetic. Honestly, I wouldn't leave my berserkers in this armor. Get them a suit of Odin armor, if nothing else. At least they'll have 20 armor on every position. Adrenaline Rush, not super useful because the technician already gets reduced AP cost for medkit stim packs and its robot arms. And the rest of the technician's abilities are pretty much either passive or one action point. That's the Berserker and Technician. The Berserker Infiltrator. This is kind of an interesting one, I guess. Surprise attack with that hammer again. The hammer already does a lot of shock damage. Combining that with surprise attack, you're going to daze some things with it if you can get behind them. And the Berserker doesn't mind as much being right there in the action and trying to flank around behind somebody else. Pretty good there. Deploy decoy, again, really good for the Berserker. Give another target in that melee mob for the enemy to shoot at. That's less damage coming at you. And while you may want a little bit of damage, you don't want all the damage necessarily. So that'll help you out a lot too. Spider drones, not particularly useful for the Berserker, I don't think. The Berserker doesn't care as much about scouting. You might maybe send a spider drone in and soften something up before you engage it in melee with an explosion. That might be something, especially if it's got armor. The spider drones do a little bit of shredding. So that's one possibility. Vanish and Bloodlust can combine to get you out of trouble. With the extra speed and the ability to disappear, you can do something like spend 1 or 2 action points to move away, and then you can activate Vanish, and then you can move another 5 tiles and be concealed in a place where they're not going to find you again. So that's a good way to get out of trouble, combining those two abilities together. Close quarters evade, again, really good for your guys that don't necessarily want to be found in the first place, although the Berserker Infiltrator wants to be found at some point. But getting out again, if you're right in the thick of things, you're not wearing very heavy armor again. This stuff is better than the Berserker armor, but only marginally. 16 and 16, 12, and 16 armor for the different body sections. So it's marginally better than the Berserker armor, but it's still not heavy armor by any stretch of the imagination. So close quarters evade is really good. And then Adrenaline Rush, it doesn't really help your Infiltrator that much. The Infiltrator's already got a one action point crossbow anyway. Its abilities are, for the most part, all 1 action point. I think they all are, actually. So yeah, Adrenaline Rush doesn't help your Berserker Infiltrator that much, any more than it would help just a Berserker. So there's not any synergy there. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have the ability still if you're going to go this route, but it's not helping the Infiltrator side of the house at all. So that's kind of those two. And so then we've got the Priest and the Technician. So let's take a look here again. Another one where there's not a lot of synergies. Electric Reinforcement's always a good ability to add armor, to the Priest. It's always good to be able to put that extra armor on no matter what the class is. So that's a synergy that works for everybody. The Priest can use the Technician's armor, and it is sturdier than the Priest armor. And so that's a good thing. It can use the robot arms. The thing with it is you are going to have usually a mutated head. So you're not going to get the helmet, but that's not the end of the world. That's okay. being able to panic or mind control a target might be clutch if you have to, again, go in and save a wounded soldier. If you can get in, you can mind control something for one action point and, use it to, hurt, take care of something else, or just send it away or whatever, and then heal your wounded soldier with another action point and a med kit. I mean, that's pretty good. Or if you can just go in and panic it and then heal a soldier with a med kit, that's less damage coming back at you the next turn, when now both your technician and your soldier are in big trouble. So that's a decent combination there. The crowd control aspect of the priest can come in clutch when you have to rescue a soldier from a bad situation. The priest infiltrator, it's an interesting combination too. It's all right. Being concealed while you're mind controlling an enemy makes you safe from retaliation to break that mind control. Okay, so if they can't see where you are to break the mind control, you're going to maintain the mind control. The extra virus damage from sneak attack drains the enemy willpower even faster. Once you get up to level 7 and you have sneak attack, that's a good thing. Deploy decoy and conceal, both really good for getting out of bad situations like we've talked about. That applies to priests as well, because priests don't necessarily want to be right up in the thick of things necessarily, unless they're planning to use Mind Crush. They do, again, tend to have mutated heads, and that's going to hurt you a bit in the stealth department, because not only are you giving up the plus 10% stealth for the Styx helmet that you're not wearing, but some of the priest heads have actual stealth penalties. Like the Screaming Head here has a minus 15% to stealth, I believe. No, minus 10. So really, you're giving up not just the bonus, you're giving up the combination. You're losing the stealth bonus from the helmet, and then you're also losing for the penalty for the mutated head. So you're going to be a lot easier to spot. Your stealth factor is not going to be nearly as high with the mutated head. So that's something to consider. You're going to need to stay a little farther away with your priest infiltrator than you would with any other type of infiltrator, probably, just because you're not going to be able to wear that helmet generally. It's a trade-off that you're going to have to consider. Either don't get the mutated head or deal with having a lower stealth as an infiltrator. So Psychic Ward, always good. Nothing wrong with having Psychic Ward as a stealth infiltrator, or as infiltrator priest rather. And then Mind Crush. Combine that again with what we were just talking about with the stealth problems with the mutated head. You're probably not going to want to get close enough to use Mind Crush necessarily in a lot of cases, unless you can do it from within another building. In that case, maybe it's worth it. If you've got a wall between you and the enemy, then it might be worth doing it. So, all right. So that's that. Overall, that's maybe like my second best pairing with the priest is the infiltrator. The rest of them are just really kind of mediocre. All of them are kind of mediocre, but I would say the assault is the best, and maybe the infiltrator is the second best after that. All right. And then we just got a little bit more here, the technician and the infiltrator. The ability to do things while concealed, again, almost worth it just on its own. But if you really want to be an infiltrator, you're going to give up the robot arms, because you're going to be wearing the Styx armor. And so you're going to give up the robot arms to get the stealth. That's a trade-off, right? I mean, you're giving up 3 of your abilities as a technician to have that extra stealth. Now, as a stealth medic, maybe that's what you want. If you can get in and help somebody and maybe not even be discovered doing it, that's not terrible. But anyway, it's a decision you're just going to have to make. Technicians, that can deploy the decoy to help a fellow soldier out. Again, get in there, heal your soldier, put a decoy out there to be a juicier target than that soldier is. That's going to help your soldier, and it's going to keep him alive probably. You're not going to want the hefty stealth penalty for using this armor. And it's a lot, because you're giving up the 10% from the Styx armor, and then you got an additional minus 15% for the penalty on this armor, the Tech Ops armor. So you're really giving up 35% of your stealth by doing that, and that's not what you want to do. 25%. No, it is 35%. So it's 20% bonus for the infiltrator armor, and then 15 penalty for this. So you're losing 35% of your stealth by doing that, and you're not going to want to do that. So you're most likely going to have to forego the robot arms. Vanish might be useful to get your technician out of some trouble. But if your technician's getting into trouble, usually it's probably going to be to save another soldier. So I don't know. Maybe it's worth it, but you might end up leaving your soldier hanging again. I don't know. Depends on the situation. Might be useful in some cases. Technician just has short range weapons, so hitting enemy from concealment's tougher, and that kind of makes the sneak attack ability not that worth it. Point defense weapons are really short range. They have an effective range of like 16 tiles or something like that. They're really bad as far as range goes. You can carry a crossbow with your technician too. That would be an option. But overall, I don't really think that the sneak attack is going to be helping your technician infiltrator all that much. Electric reinforcement, on the other hand, again, works for everybody, and that's no exception here. So if you can get plus 20 armor on top of this stuff that you've got, you're just going to be golden. So it's again, I don't think there's a bad pairing with the Infiltrator. Some of them are a little better than others, but I think if you wanted to do a whole squad of Infiltrator / whatever multi-classes, I think it could be a lot of fun, and it probably would work really well, as long as you don't lose sight of the fact that you are running light armor in all of your guys. So that's a problem maybe, but I think the stealth might make it worthwhile, especially at night when visibility is reduced anyway. Arthrons have really limited visibility. I think they have a base 20 perception, which is pretty poor. And some of the Tritons have really good perception, so you have to watch out for them. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the different multi-classes, and we've covered all of the different combinations of the 7 classes. Now, I know it's been a long time, and if you're still with me at this point, I do really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this, or if you've learned anything, do me a big favor, tap that like button. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.